And so commences the penultimate episode of this week's Fun Facts with Liam. Be sure to subscribe, comment, and etc. etc. Even though I said I wasn't going to do that all the time, I probably won't in the final episode that's coming up, obviously. But this one concerns, and even though I'm not the biggest fan of, I never really knew much about Alexander Hamilton other than the whole him being, I guess, one of the founding fathers, and his ancestry being a bit dubious, and him being being born, I think, in the Caribbean, so in what's now the British Virgin Islands, that might have been American at the time of his birth, depending on who you ask, and what was what back then at the time of his birth in the 1740s or 50s, I forget which. Maybe 60s, actually. I think he was quite young in comparison to the rest of them. But yeah, the whole duel with Aaron Burr, who I know much less about, other than him shooting Alexander Hamilton to death in a quick draw in a duel, in the kind of gun duels that Swedish or Norwegian scientist Tycho Brahe, probably completely butchering the pronunciation of his name, like to participate in gun duels and fencing duels and sword duels and all the rest of that. But Alexander Hamilton, along with James Madison, was actually involved in co-authoring the farewell address, which was given by George Washington, eventually delivered in 1796. And Washington had actually been writing this for a good four-ish years. And it was finally, it came to be kind of, well, James Madison came to kind of to help him co-author, if you will, the farewell address in 1792, and eventually, come 4 years later in 1796, it was eventually revised and completed with the help of Alexander Hamilton, and the farewell address. After that, following that, there was the it was basically after that, when Washington stepped down, John Adams. It was basically Adams v. Jefferson, and John Adams won the election. And they were lifelong friends and political rivals. I only kind of get my reference from the HBO miniseries John Adams, which I haven't watched it all the way through, but I've seen bits of it. You have to be kind of invested, but with brilliant actors like Rufus Sewell as Thomas Jefferson. You have Paul Giamatti as John Adams, the title character, and some reason, loads of people like myself, blighters, I guess, get mixed up between George Washington and Benjamin Franklin because of the whole powdered wigs thing that was a thing pretty much everywhere in the upper class, So yeah, it was Tom Wilkinson, who was actually sort of from my neck of the woods, sort of near Leeds, Horsforth maybe, or Wharfdale. Horsforth is the versatile Malcolm McDowell, known for being Alex DeLarge in Clockwork Orange. But the late great Tom Wilkinson was, I think, Benjamin Franklin in that, and he's pretty much. There was no such thing as photography back then, but I think if one could go back in time and take a picture of Benjamin Franklin, I think to kind of conclude this episode, tangentially, that's a good word to use. I like that word. I use it whenever I can. In relevance, but Benjamin Franklin and Tom Wilkinson's mannerisms of him is sort of like a gauge for what I imagine him to have been like in life if you saw him in the 1750s and 70s. So I think it's Franklin Washington. Like I said, I get mixed up between the two. But yeah, Washington's farewell address, which eventually gave, I say eventually, probably happened quite quickly in terms of politics. It's probably like half a year or something like that, where it paved the way for Adams v. Jefferson, in which Jefferson lost that year in 1796. That's that for the penultimate episode of Fun Facts with Liam of this week, and I'll see you in the fourth and final one. Peace.